There have been so many thought-provoking and interesting comic book origin stories throughout comic history, but today we're going to look at the character origins that we think hit the hardest. What's up, my comic comrades? Today we are taking on another heavy task by assembling a list of what we think are the greatest and most compelling comic book character origins of all time. The list of options was obviously quite extensive, but we've managed to narrow it down to what we think are the top 7. Having said that, we're talking about doing a part 2 on this topic because it was a tough list and there are several more important origin stories that deserve attention. You also may have noticed that I am rocking one of our dope new logo shirts from the new Variant Labs merch line, which will officially launch with our June 28th episode. We'll be dropping a new line of shirts, hats, hoodies, backpacks, and a ton more, and you'll be able to find them both on our new store at variantcomics.com or the new merch shelf that will be attached to each episode. So come check us out on June 28th and pick up some fresh Variant swag. But now let's get into the greatest character origins of all time. First up, we have arguably the most well-known comic book origin story of all time, and that, of course, is the origin of Clark Kent Superman. The brilliance of Superman's origin is that it's straightforward and universally relatable. And as we know, often the simplest things are the most effective. For instance, like a lot of great origins, you could sum up what the character's origin is in a few sentences. In Superman's case, a baby was rocketed from his dying planet by his parents to Earth, where he was found and raised by a nice married couple in Smallville, Kansas. He would then grow up learning about his birth parents and homeworld, discovering he has extraordinary powers and abilities given to him by Earth's yellow sun, and swears to use them to protect the innocent. The crazy thing about the Man of Steel's origin and why it stands the test of time, only having minor changes through its countless reimaginings over the years, is because even in its simplest nature, it's so complex. His birth parents so desperately wanted him to live that they found a planet he would be able to survive on and sent him there all alone, as there wasn't enough room or time for them to escape as well. It's something all parents can relate to, that they will do anything to make sure their kid or kids survive. So you have that element, and then you have an older married couple who never had kids have a baby fall right into their lap, so to speak, from space, and slowly start to discover he has superpowers. And all they want to do is shield him from the world, as they know the world might not accept him. Then you have Clark Kent himself, a man of two worlds essentially. He's an alien, but is also more humane than most humans, as he embodies everything we should strive to be, choosing self-sacrifice in service to his fellow man, even if it means risking his own personal safety. Ideals that wide-scale audiences have shown a huge appetite for since Superman's creation in 1938. In many ways, Superman's classic origin truly laid the groundwork for every comic book origin that followed.
And speaking of appetites, it's lunchtime here in the studio and your boy is hungry. Thankfully, today's sponsor Factor just sent over a Chef's Choice box and it is full of delicious. We introduced you guys to Factor a couple of months ago, but for those of you who didn't catch it, Factor is my favorite ready-made meal delivery company that makes meeting your nutrition goals easier than ever by delivering fresh, never frozen, dietitian-approved meals right to your doorstep. Right now, I am personally on a mission to shed some pounds and clean up the summer dad bod, but that means meal portion control. And with my insanely busy schedule, having to find the time to plan and prepare meals has always been what throws me off course. But thankfully, Factor takes care of that problem for me. Their team of chefs create over 34 dietitian-approved weekly options to choose from, using only premium ingredients to help me keep my grub goals on track. They also have awesome add-on options like apple cinnamon pancakes and bacon and cheddar egg bites for breakfast, or I can add extra protein options like a salmon fillet or chicken wings to my favorite Factor meals. They basically have an option for whatever dietary needs and goals you have. So with Factor, I get to eat great food that hits my diet targets while skipping the time-consuming trips to the grocery store and meal prepping. It is the best. Not to mention, Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes. All I have to do is heat it up and down the hatch it goes. Factor is also now owned by HelloFresh, which has a great meal selection of its own, so mixing meals from both brands really creates options for everyone. And now you can enjoy both brands at a discount with me. Just head over to factor75.com or click the link below and use code VARIANT50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. Again, that's factor75.com and use code VARIANT50 at checkout to get 50% off your order. You can thank me later.
Okay, next up on our list of great comic book origins, we have the origin of easily the most popular X-Men character, and that is Wolverine. I'm gonna go on record here saying that Wolverine has easily one of the best modern comic book origins, period. It's super complex and an origin that was slowly unraveled as the years went on after his first appearance in Hulk 181 from 1974. Now, I will say his origin is a bit convoluted, as they're always kind of giving us a new revelation about it, but it's awesome nonetheless. In any case, his origin was broken down in the 6-issue miniseries Wolverine Wolverine, the origin. In the series, we learned that way back in the day, the man who would become Wolverine was born under the name James Howlett, and he was the illegitimate son of a very wealthy farming family, the Howletts. Their groundskeeper was a man named Thomas Logan, who we find out, or at least is heavily implied, is actually the birth father of James Howlett, aka future Wolverine. And one day, that groundskeeper staged a robbery on the Howletts. When young Wolverine sees Thomas Logan kill his father, the stress from this trauma activated his mutant genes, causing his bone claws to come out, at which point he savagely kills his birth father for killing his father. It's a lot of fathers, but that's how it goes.
Yeah, right.
James would then leave his family house and take on the name Logan. As the years would pass, agents from the Weapon X program would capture him and use him for their experiments, such as lacing his skeleton with adamantium, giving us the Wolverine we all know and love today. Point is, when you really dive into Wolverine's origin, it's one of death, sorrow, heartbreak, torture, and loss, and how someone deals with constantly fighting the demons of their past and trying to use all of that sorrow as a force for good. Next up, we have a villain to talk about, and that, of course, is the clown prince of crime, the Joker. Now, the Joker is a funny thing when it comes to origins, because up until 2020, he didn't really have a set origin. The fandom all pretty much agreed that the Killing Joke origin was his origin, but it wasn't set in stone by DC, so it was still left in the air. However, as of 2020, the Killing Joke Joker origin has been confirmed. Now, a lot of people, myself included, have mixed feelings about this, as one of the cool things about the Joker was that he didn't have a definitive origin, but now he does. Either way, it's a solid origin and one that was talked about and is still talked about to this day. We learned that the man who would become the Joker was a failed comedian who secretly abused his wife, as we found out in the 3 Joker storyline. So his wife called the cops, at which point the cops band together to raise enough money to put the woman in hiding with her child. They then lied to the man who would become the Joker, saying she died when a baby bottle heater had an electrical short. This causes the man to snap, ultimately leading him to take on a job for some goons that led to him falling in a vat of acid when Batman was chasing him at Ace Chemicals during said job, causing him to turn into the Joker. Now, this is another prime example of simplicity often works best, as the origin is really just as simple as you got a failed comedian who's down on his luck. Because of this, he's acting out at home, taking it out on his wife, which causes her to leave, faking her death, and in turn causes him to snap, leading to a series of events that causes him to become the Joker, giving us the point the Joker is always trying to make, that it just takes one bad day to make anyone go crazy. So even though it's simple, at the same time, it's complex. When broken down, there's so many things you could explore, such as mental illness, the way society treats outsiders, spousal abuse, literally some of the darkest things out there, which is fitting for a villain like the Joker. Now, I will say the whole spousal bit, where the wife was faking her death to get away from her husband, was added in the 3 Jokers, but nonetheless, it's now part of his origin. Another important part to his origin that was confirmed in the Flashpoint Beyond storyline is DC confirming his real name, and that would be Jack Oswald White. So the Joker officially has a name which apparently Batman has always known, and yet again, I'm not quite sure how I feel about it, but nonetheless, the Killing Joke origin, even with its expanded bits from 3 Jokers, is still one of the best origins we've gotten. Next up, we have the origin of the X-Men. Yes, that's right, the X-Men in general. This straightforward origin hits so hard. As we're all familiar with, in the world of comic books, usually a character's origin starts with them getting hit by some sort of energy, drinking some sort of formula, or getting hit by lightning. Essentially, some incident or accident that sets that person or being down a particular heroic or villainous path. But what's so great about the X-Men is they weren't given weapons and they weren't hit by some energy storm. They were just born that way. I'm not saying the X-Men were the first characters to just be born with their abilities as part of their origin, but man, did the X-Men do it the best. Stan Lee essentially used the X-Men as a way to say being different isn't bad. Whether that's your skin color or disability you may have or anything else, being different doesn't matter, and society shouldn't treat you wrongly because of that. It's a story about prejudice and how to work past it. And you get to see 2 different sides of the same coin. Professor X and the X-Men believe that they should slowly try to gain the trust of humans and the rest of the world by demonstrating who they are with their actions, while Magneto and his Brotherhood of Evil Mutants believe the world will never accept them. So let's just use our powers to beat them into submission. It's one of the most brilliant and relatable comic book origin stories still to this day, and one of the many reasons why the X-Men are so popular and why writers can think of so many amazing stories to write about them. Next up, we do have an origin that deals with getting hit by a storm and cosmic rays, and that of course is the Fantastic Four, Marvel's first family. We all know this iconic origin when Reed Richards, his girlfriend Sue Storm, her brother Johnny Storm, and Reed's best friend Ben Grimm go into space in an experimental rocket of Reed's design. Their ship is hit with a mysterious cosmic ray, causing them to crash back down to Earth in the woods, where they all realize they have been given superhuman abilities. Ben Grimm's appearance was even now physically changed, as he was now essentially essentially made of orange rock, becoming known as the Thing. With their new powers and abilities, Reed is like, let's become a team. We'll become the Fantastic Four, using our powers to stop threats from other worlds and this one. Now, this origin is so important because it set the tone for Marvel. This was Stan Lee's first major Marvel creation that set the stage for hit after hit to come. For instance, after the creation of the Fantastic Four, he went on to create the Hulk, Spider-Man, Thor, Loki, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, the X-Men, Black Panther, Daredevil, Captain Marvel, and the list goes on. Every time I run through the list of everything he's co-created, my mind's just like, how the hell, man? It's also an origin closely tied to the awesome Victor Von Doom, aka Doctor Doom, two completely different origins, but within the same world. Simply put, the Fantastic Four and their origin helped kick off the success of the Marvel Universe. Shifting back to DC, of course, we have Batman. This is one of the most well-known comic origins, or just fictional origins in general. You can go to any grocery store and ask people what's Batman's origin, and guaranteed at least 8 out of 10 people will be able to tell you the general gist of it. Point is, there's only a handful of fictional origins as iconic and well done as Batman's. It's a story of tragedy and vengeance. One day while leaving Monarch Theater, Bruce's parents, Thomas and Martha Wayne, are mugged and gunned down in Crime Alley right in front of Bruce. The trauma of seeing his parents murdered right before his eyes causes him to go down a path of vengeance. As he got older, he would leave Gotham and then train his body and mind to become a living weapon taught by some of the best experts in the world in all areas, not just martial arts, so that when he returned to Gotham, he could try to ensure that what happened to him wouldn't happen to any other kid. What else do I have to say? We're all familiar with Batman's origin. It's what set him down a path of vengeance to become the Dark Knight. As the great late Kevin Conroy would say,
I am vengeance. I am the Knight. I am Batman.
Put it this way, his origin set him down the road to become the most dangerous man on Earth. Literally because of what happened that day in Crime Alley, he would become Batman, a person who Superman would ultimately say is the most dangerous man on the planet. With that said, the last origin we're going to talk about is certainly on par with Batman's, and that's the wall crawler himself, Spider-Man. Spidey's origin has been drilled into all of our minds, along with the famous quote, "With great power, there must also come great responsibility." As comic book fans or even moviegoers know by now, Peter Parker was bit by a radioactive spider, giving him spider-like abilities. He would then use his powers initially to make money as a wrestler, at which point he saw a crook stealing money from the wrestler's booker. But since the wrestling booker didn't pay Pete what he promised, Peter just let the thief get away. Come to find out, the thief he let get away killed Uncle Ben, causing Peter to blame himself for his uncle's death. Because if he would have just stopped him and done the right thing, his uncle would still be alive. Hence the quote, "With great power, there must also come great responsibility." It is a fantastic origin and might be my favorite superhero origin. As far as the catalyst goes for making a character become a hero, the death of Uncle Ben and how it went down is one of the best. It causes Peter Parker to vow to never make that mistake again, which is just brilliant. This is why Stan Lee was a complete and utter genius and the most prolific comic book writer of all time. There you have it, guys, the list of our favorite origin stories in comics. There are, of course, a number of great origins I didn't mention, including Captain America, the Hulk, Doctor Doom, Black Panther, Spawn, Green Arrow, Aquaman, and Iron Man, among others. But as of right now, these are the characters whose origins we think are the most compelling. As I mentioned at the open, we may actually do a part 2 on this topic because there are definitely more origins that deserve some love. Anyway, let us know what your favorite origin is down in the comments. Other than that, we'll see you next time when I talk about all things comics.